It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate, oh yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name is Mike Royer.
And hello there, Obi Wan Kenobi trailer. See what it there? That's his line from the movies, you know. You got to talk about that. DC breaks our trust, Mike. We were riding so high, and here we are. This is the summer of TV shows, and we'll talk about what the two competing TV shows I feel every summer who are like, I'm going to release before you, but no, I'm going to release before you, and more.
I mean, I would say at the risk of dating the podcast episode, but that seems to be absolutely pointless since we're a news podcast and you can very easily date everything we talk about. But a very critical question to ask you, Chris, and you may or may not have already been aware of the question and controversy circling the internet right now. But
which one?
Are you team doors or team wheels? Does that mean anything to you when I say that?
No, it does not.
Oh.
This is news to me.
Oh, Chris, it's everywhere now. It blew up.
Oh my gosh.
It was just an innocuous poll question that was posted from just a random person on Twitter. This wasn't even like a famous person as far as I know. Random person said, "Hey, Twitter, help me and my friends settle a debate. What is there more of in the world? Wheels or doors?" And I think the argument is fascinating, no matter what side that you're on, whether you're team door or team wheels, because it's just really fun to see people like kind of problem solve it or just work through it, or they just walk through their life and they discover a new example of like a door. And they're just like, oh my gosh, no, I forgot these are doors. But then like you literally like open up the door or look behind it. Like a great example is a microwave, right? Look at a microwave. That's a whole other door that you can add to the argument, right? But what happens when you open up the microwave? What's that little tray inside spinning on? 3 little wheels. So the conversation has moved from Twitter. It's all over TikTok and other platforms of people just looking at the world in a different light. But it's been great. But what's your knee-jerk reaction? Wheels or doors?
Mine would be doors.
I don't know. I don't know what this means. Maybe this means that we were always meant to do this podcast together. I'm also
wheels?
Team doors.
Oh, okay.
Like,
all right.
It seems to be most people are team wheels. The majority seem to be team wheels. The Twitter poll, I think, ended, I want to say, with about maybe 20,000 respondents. And I think it was like 55-45.
It was 53.6. I pulled up an article just to look at what's going on here.
Just to make sure I wasn't going literally crazy and just making stuff up on
I'm
the
like,
spot.
What have I been sleeping on? And I'll explain why I've been sleeping on this the past few days. But this is wild. Because, I mean, I'm sitting here saying I'm counting the number of doors in my house. You know, just regular doors versus car wheels. But you're right. It does break down a little farther.
Yeah. And it honestly, it's just fun to talk about. We had some people over last night having some drinks, talking about wheels and doors. It was very exciting. And I think that the thing that's great about it, it's the first time I feel like in the last maybe 2 to like 5 years where like just something kind of wholesome has kind of come across and broke through on the internet and kind of like somewhat of
this is that white and gold, black and blue dress again.
Yes, exactly. So wheels or doors, it's been great.
my logic I'm going to add to this is I can tell you I know of a band called The Doors, but a quick Google tells me a band called The Wheels only lasted 3 years. So I feel Doors is leading me in the right direction.
I love that. I love that argument too. Yeah, some people get a little too out of the spirit of the question and they get too abstract, and it's just like if you have to explain why it's a wheel or why it's a door, like with more than like 1 or 2 words, like it's not what it is.
Yeah,
I think in the spirit of the question, a gear is not a wheel. Like I understand it like spins, but to the spirit, it doesn't match the spirit of the question. And also, I would say that's not a gear's primary function. A gear's primary function is to like act on something else and make that kind of move. Like a wheel is kind of like for just strictly movement, like transportation type in my head.
I would also say, just looking at this, I have a mouse wheel right here, right? So do we consider a sphere a wheel? Like a ball, like an old mouse scroller ball.
I think that's a great question, because like there's some office chairs. Office chairs seem to be like a big point for team wheels, because they're just like, well, yeah, you can look at a skyscraper and there's a lot of doors in there, but think of how many office chairs are in there. Now I have come across office chairs before that kind of have that spherical quote unquote wheel underneath it. So it's like, is that a wheel? I don't know. So it's just a fun discussion to have, and I don't think we'll ever really know the answer, which is what makes it great, because you can just like argue with your friends hours.
This is fun. I like this. This is a fun question. This isn't DC versus Marvel where people start throwing punches. This is just a fun question. I appreciate that. But I will tell you, the reason I missed this is because I was at a place with more doors than wheels. This weekend I've been spending my weekend at the Louisville Arcade Expo, and I probably brought this up on the show several years, because I've gone to it several years now. I have friends who have a booth there that I help them unload their arcades. They sell old video games. That's their specialty. And it's just really fun because, everyone knows I love arcade. I'm building my basement into like my own little arcade. So I like to go out and experience the classic ones. But at the same time, I'm taking notes. I'm like, oh, I like this. I like that, banner, stuff like that. So if you're ever in the first, or I believe second weekend in March in Louisville, they have the Arcade Expo. It's a weekend long event, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I always recommend going. It's classic retro arcade games, free play. Like you pay to get in, and they're all free play. They do, they even have the older consoles as well, Mike. Like the like Commodore 64s, or like the 3DO, the ones we never had because they were they weren't Nintendos. They sold, but they weren't the biggest ones in the world. So I was able to go through and snag some comic book games, or games I had when I was younger as well. But I mostly went and played some arcade games. It's really, really fun event with that. My friend, his brother, actually, we unloaded. It's he's got a Time Crisis 2 arcade for sale.
Oh, and, Time Crisis.
And he's like, he only wanted like $1,000 for it. I'm like, that's pretty good for a Time Crisis arcade to have in your house. But where do you put it? Where do you put stuff like that? But yeah, it's a really, really fun place. I recommend. Pinball's the other thing I've seen a lot of this year. This company who sells and remasters pinball machines, they have I want to say no less than 15 the band Rush pinball machines there. And I was like, that's a very interesting thing. But I think there's a lot of people who like the band Rush, and they were all, I wouldn't say all, but every 5 of them were different, right? So there might have been 3 different versions of the Rush boards. Another guy who was selling old games had actually old pinball boards, like the flat boards that of machines that had been damaged or taken apart for sale. I'm like, that would have been a cool little decoration, kind of on the wall. So I always recommend that if anyone's in town. I had a good time. Like I said, I picked up some games from Genesis to PlayStation, Xbox. It was a perfect little event, Mike. I recommend it. But on the other hand, when I got home from it last night, I decided to take my hand, and I had a choice of 2 films to watch yesterday that came out this weekend. One is The Adam Project, which I ended up watching, and one that I didn't watch is Turning Red, which you ended up watching.
Yeah.
So we actually, in a stroke of luck, we both watched the movies that we are on our list. I think we both want to watch these, but we ended up doing the opposite here. And I'm going to say,
see, that's why you synergize and you listen to this podcast, because we complete more ground with the two of us than
we complete
single.
Each other's sandwiches, if you will. But no, so the Adam Project, to me, it's been on my radar. It's Ryan Reynolds. It's I can't, the lady who plays Gamora. I just had it. Zoe Saldana, Mark Ruffalo. A little kid who is essentially a young Ryan Reynolds through and through, and it looks to be involve time travel, right? About young Adam meeting the older version of himself, Ryan Reynolds. So this movie, I think, Mike, is a Netflix production, right? I believe so. Which I actually need to add some notes. Directed by Sean Levy, who we actually are going to talk about in the show notes below, and you'll find out why. Is it feels like a Netflix movie, Mike. And this isn't. I like the movie, but I'm just gonna say like you can tell there were some budget restraints here based on Netflix these days. This is what was it? Red Notice, is that the last Ryan Reynolds Netflix movie he did with The Rock and so like there are you can tell, and the only reason I say this is like there are sets and you can feel the movie sets in this movie, Mike, and that's it's nothing bad. There's some wonky CGI I'd love to get your opinions on, because I know you've got an eye for wonky CGI, if you will. But overall the story's really fun. It's charming, it's got heart, it is enjoyable. This kid, if he ends up playing a young version of like Wade Wilson in a Deadpool 3 movie, I would definitely love that, because he's through and through, Ryan Reynolds. The actors are phenomenal, on point throughout this whole thing. But I think it's good. I'm glad this is not a theater movie, but it feels like a Netflix. But I'm glad I watched it at the end of the day. I'm trying not to ruin anything or say anything, because it is a story-based movie. But I think it feels like a Netflix movie, and I'm glad I was able to access someone else's Netflix account and watch it along the way.
Yeah, I appreciate the non-spoiler kind of impressions. And it's funny because even though it has some big heavy hitters in this movie, I would say I never really rush to my Netflix account to watch, Netflix films, because they just really have not been great. I mean, they're really just kind of more of a series streaming network. But I actually started to hear early last week buzz about this movie from like critics that I like and I enjoy and I follow. And I was like, well, this is a surprise. I can't remember the last time I've heard about a Netflix movie critically. You always hear about it like, oh, the biggest streams, the most streams that they ever had, or like, oh, this is the most expensive Netflix movie they ever. So it's always a different metric. It's never the quality metric that you want to hear about.
Right.
So I had started hearing good buzz about the Adam Project. So I was like, oh, I should probably watch this. And I feel like I kind of have to soon, or I'll just kind of forget it exists, because Netflix is just this giant pile of content, and a week from now they'll be promoting something totally different and brand new, and I'll probably never hear about the Adam Project ever again. So we'll see if I get around to it. But I wanted to watch it this weekend, but didn't get to it.
Yeah, I think again, there's nothing against it, but like I'm thinking, I don't think Netflix is running out of money, but they might be, queuing up some films that are not theatrical quality, right? Like they're saving a little bit. But again, if you have great actors, you can look beyond that. I mean, and I think Ryan Reynolds and I don't know the kid's name, and I feel bad for not knowing off the top of my head, but he did a good job, because they're the stars of the film. So and then the director Sean Levy, will talk about him later in the episode. So you watch the other side of this, Turning Red, which my wife keeps calling the Panda movie, and I'm like,
well, she's kind of right.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. So she's very excited to see it, and she said we didn't get to watch it today. We were supposed to, but as you can probably tell, I'm under the weather from allergies hitting me from our false spring here in the Midwest. So tell me your initial spoiler-free thoughts here on Turning Red, Mike.
Yeah, Turning Red was absolutely fantastic. I didn't know a whole lot about going into it. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe there's a trailer that came out recently that maybe reveals a little bit more of the story. But I went in only knowing the very basics of this girl turns into a panda whenever she gets overly emotional or kind of out of control. And that's pretty much all I knew about it. So it was awesome watching the film, kind of learning the mythology that they're introducing, getting used to the world. I didn't even know this film is technically a quote-unquote period piece, which is going to make you feel really old, Chris. It's set all the way back in the year 2002, which feels like not that long ago for us, but kids nowadays, that's like the 80s when we were kids, which is just wild. But they do a really good job rooting it in that time period and what's it like to be, a teenager and growing up and being awkward and going through puberty and stuff like that. But not only is the story really great, but everything behind the craft of the film is gorgeous. The animation's amazing. The emotional range that they put on the characters, the lighting is gorgeous. The first thing I did as soon as the film was over is I hopped on Amazon and I bought the art book. So that should be showing up here in a couple days, and I'll be digesting that like crazy. So people are saying that this kind of fits into this new trend that Pixar is going after, which is just kind of focusing on what it's like to be a kid and maybe quote unquote like lower stakes adventures, kind of talking about Luca. But I wasn't head over heels for Luca myself. I felt like the story was actually maybe a little too lacking, and it really didn't dig its talons into me. But Turning Red, I would say, was firing on all cylinders. So I think a lot of people will enjoy this movie. I mean, especially if you are anywhere close to the age or demographics of the main character, I can't imagine how great it feels to like kind of be seen. Right, like a Chinese Canadian girl in Toronto at the age of 13. Like, I would just love to be in a room with a person like that, just like seeing this movie for the first time, because it's like it feels like so specific, but anybody can enjoy it. So, a lot of great representation in the movie, but it doesn't feel like it's ham-fisted at any time. So it's just fun to see a bunch of characters act like nerds and dorks and go through these crazy trials of turning into a Red Panda. So big recommendation for me, go watch Turning Red.
Red Panda the movie. There it is. And that's on Disney Plus for free. Again, the other Pixar, I guess the third Pixar movie goes straight there. Now, before we get into news, I have a question, Mike, and I might have posed this to you in our group chat. I don't remember. I recently remembered my theater projector can do 3D. Active 3D glasses, right? The ones you buy that have like little battery in them and charge them. And I am trying to decide if I should buy a pair of 3D glasses to test what home 3D looks like. Now, I'm not a fan of 3D. Thank God it's dying at the movie theaters. Knock on wood for now. But I'm like, if I have the ability, should I test it? And I'm trying to guess, and this is also for you and the listeners, what 3D movies I should try first. I keep hearing people say the not Lord of the Rings, Avatar, from 2009, which we have to rewatch before December of this year, right? Anyway, for the show. The Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit movies, the three that came out, 10 years ago, is popping up as well. Do you have any movies that you would recommend if I did try them to watch in 3D off the top of your head?
I think the only thing that pops into my head outside of, Avatar being the most obvious example, and this probably just goes to show you how unimpactful 3D in general at the theaters was, that you can't even remember a good experience. But I remember seeing Gravity in 3D.
Oh, yeah.
And I felt like that did a really good job with scale and dimension. So I think that's the only thing I could recommend.
Yeah, that one has popped up as well. I do have a lot of Marvel movies. When I bought the Blu-ray, they came with the 3D discs. Some people mentioned maybe Civil War, I believe, when I was looking up lists. Or maybe Guardians of the Galaxy. I think it came with the 3D. So I'm just trying to think. So if any listener has anything that's like, yeah, you should try this, I'd be down to possibly, pick up a pair of glasses and see if it even works. Just to really get that old school 3D experience going.
I think wasn't the original Jurassic Park like re-released in 3D? Kind of with that post-processing workflow. Because I feel like I remember it being like reintroduced. That one might be kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah, there is that one. I was hoping they never. I remember watching this in 2012, Mike, when they redid Episode 1, Star Wars in 3D. They were going to do them all, then they canceled them all. So I'm like, oh, we never got it. But I never saw that released. Do you remember ever? I never remember seeing these movies.
I mean, it does really feel like something that they would have done with the prequels, right?
Yeah. So if I can find maybe someone has a copy online. I don't want to watch the new ones. I typed that in and it's like The Force Awakens in 3D. I'm like, no. Don't want to do this. But it's also interesting that to me that a lot of streaming services, this isn't something they try to tap into as well. Like, hey, watch the 3D version stream, from us, which is great that they haven't yet. But I can feel them being like, I can see Disney doing this down the road, like, hey, we also have the 3D stream as well as the IMAX stream kind of thing.
I feel like it would be only a thing that they would add if it was very simple for them to do right, because it doesn't seem like something that's going to drive a lot of subscriptions. I mean, I don't have a 3D TV. Like, there's no way I could take advantage of it. So they wouldn't want to put in so much effort that it wouldn't see a return. Well,
to me, it's and I hate this, the advent of the metaverse, right? Like, all VR headsets can watch 3D movies.
I actually didn't think about that. But they'll have to wait until the headset adoption gets a little bit more.
But that could be something they could be like, hey, we made a Disney Plus app for the metaverse, and you can watch the movies in 3D here. Which I would never want to watch a movie with a headset on. I've tried it with the PSVR, and I was like, no, this is too miserable to suffer through. But anyway, I mean, that's just something I was thinking. If anyone thinks of anything else, do let us know. Tag us at Superhero Slate, or just myself, VALDAN online. I love it when people tag us on stuff. It's really fun. So glad they're listening. Moving into movies, recently we were able to do a spoiler cast / review of The Batman that hit theaters, Mike. And due to its success, due to the overwhelming positivity for Colin Farrell's Penguin, they have officially ordered a Penguin spinoff on HBO Max. Now, I've heard that this was possibly considered as a sequel to The Batman. How much Batman will be in it? Probably very little to none. But it would be interesting to see what he does in the universe going forward, based on the end of the movie. Well, how does this guy who's just kind of slightly deformed and runs a thing like an iceberg lounge, if you will, become known as the Penguin, and tied into Penguin stuff? Would be interesting. I'm excited about this. This seems like good news, right? Like for spin-off shows.
Yeah, I guess it really just depends. I feel like we've had a very similar opinion about everything DC, HBO Max related. The only thing that we've really seen come to fruition at this point in time is Peacemaker. Yeah. And that went well. Yeah. So no complaints there.
Despite us being like, why? At the beginning.
But also, I feel like you can't use that as kind of a way to perceive what's going to happen, because it really more feels like a James Gunn project that moved forward, and like this is coming from a totally kind of different angle. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. On the flip side of that, the Gotham PD series they were making over there is on hold completely, and now they're going into like an Arkham-based horror series, which they did have a little bit of Arkham there. This one feels like, yes, they should have been doing this all along, but like it really feels like there's no guidance over there. They're just kind of throwing stuff at a wall and seeing what sticks, right? Because how often do they pitch that Gotham PD series? Like they were like every month, we're making it. We're very, very excited about it, and then now it's like, we're not. We're gonna go into Arkham, which we've seen very, very little of. So
yeah, and I feel like if you're making an Arkham series, I feel like there's only maybe 2 angles to take, and maybe those angles end up in the same season, where you could show the origin of the asylum to begin with, but I don't know how super interesting that would be, right? I think you wouldn't be seeing a lot of like cohorts of villains, from Batman, right? Because I don't think a lot of those villains were around when the Arkham Asylum was founded.
Well, I think there's twofold here. One, Arkham in the movie we watched has a different meaning behind the name of it, right? Without saying any details, the Arkham name is very different. But what we saw of Arkham doesn't seem very horrific. It seems like it's just a regular jail, right? Like what little bit we saw, right? Like in the trailers of the interrogation scene, that's one scene, and then once kind of at the end, there's another, follow up in there, and there's nothing scary about this. Like, what horror can you have in this jail that's just kind of in Gotham? I think the origin could work based on what we do know of the Batman world, but like, there's nothing there that's horrific unless they're like, oh, but if we go to the basement level, wink, wink, where we keep all the crazy ones.
Also, we've yet to see anything horror come out of the, I would say, kind of superhero genre on screen just yet. We've had darker stuff, right? I'm sure the next Doctor Strange movie is going to be a little bit darker. New Mutants technically had a little bit of a darkness, but I've yet to see anything reach to the level of like quote unquote horror.
Oh, I think the real horror will be when Morbius hits the screen and we have to go watch it.
Chris, that wasn't even a segue. You just had to really sink the knife in and twist it, didn't you?
This morning I went out. My sister-in-law's birthday was last week, and mine's coming up, so we have a shared birthday brunch with the family, and we were talking about Morbius, and my brother seems to think he's not watched a superhero movie, I think, since Endgame, and he's like, well, Morbius could be good. I'm like, of all the things you could say for the past 3 years, that's the worst one you could have said.
Of all things you could say to me.
Yeah, I was like, ugh, that's not really leaning into that one. But yeah. But anyway, yeah, I think you're right. Horror, it needs to lean in that. I think the Batman movie isn't a horror film; it's just a dark film. So I don't know, how horrific can you get in this very grounded universe they've set up. So a lot of question marks on this. We'll see if it even comes to fruition at the end of the day. But after the success Batman's been having, after this really awesome "The World Needs DC Superheroes" promo before every showing of the Batman, DC on Monday came out and decided, fuck it, we're moving every release date we have. Everything we just promised you at the beginning of Batman, less than a week ago, done. It's not even in stone anymore. And as you said, you put it really, really well. This is why we have trust issues with them. Like, there is no rhyme or reason right now that, due to the financial success of both Spider-Man and the Batman, there's no reason to delay movies based on financial reasons, right? If a single movie was delayed, it could be due to reshoots or something that they want to adapt based on what the current film's doing. But they literally moved, how many we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of their movie release dates around, enough to kind of even shake it up a little bit, where I'm like just kind of upset. I'm like, this is stupid. Why would you do this?
Yeah. And I'll play devil's advocate. I'll be fair and just and fine and say we had very similar news a few months ago when Feige and Disney pushed back all of their Marvel releases. Yeah. I would say in almost a very similar fashion, right? But the main key difference here is when that news was announced, they didn't just release a promo hyping up all of their movies, saying it was coming this calendar year. Yeah. So it just seems like I'm just trying to figure out what did they know like last week that's different than what they knew like around the Super Bowl, right? Because that's when that promo came out. What changed in those couple weeks?
Yeah. And they obviously, I want to say, knew this before the Batman dropped, right? Like, just don't put it in front of the Batman if you're going to change the dates. And if Batman had really, really bad in box office money, I'm like, okay, they're playing safe, but there's no reason. This is just a big nebulous cloud of why they move these, and I don't know. So let's dive into this. So DC's League of Super Pets, we just got a quick little trailer on what was it, the Keanu Reeves voicing Batman, has been pushed from May 20th to July 29th of this year. So same calendar year. That's a plus. And what is going to be even crazier here, Mike, is that wouldn't you say July 29th was a, movie already, right? Well, it is. It was Black Adam. Black Adam was literally sitting here on July 20th, and it's been pushed all the way back to October 21st. So this is, the starting point of like, okay, well, why... Is there anything going on during these months? I couldn't find any release schedules. It's fine.
Also, that October date is interesting, right? It seems with this movie and with Venom kind of conquering Octobers in the past, they're really trying to reclaim this like specific month that was like weirdly in the fall, after summer, before the winter movie season, and you said before it was going to be coming out in July, a very primo month for films, big films, and moving to a month like October. Yeah, it makes you wonder if they just want to grab a different audience. I don't know. It honestly just seems like some sort of big spreadsheet where one thing got messed up and they're just like, we have no choice except to move everything.
Well, I would say I normally agree with you, but what happened here is The Flash was on November 4th. Why did Black Adam not go to November 4th? It's not like they all shifted dates. Like, why did Black Adam go to October 21st and not November 4th where The Flash was? Because The Flash moved as well. So, like, what is this date here, and why was it not in stone before any of this happened? Like where did it go, kind of thing. So let's move on. So The Flash was November 4th. It moved all the way 6-7 months to June 23rd. This is probably the movie I was most excited for this year for DC, and it's been pushed all the way to June, almost July of next year, out of even conceivable reach here. So that's rearranged it, which it was coming out before Aquaman, which was December 16th. Well, Aquaman has also been pushed to March 17th of next year. So it'll now be Aquaman before The Flash, which is hopefully these don't tie in together, but maybe hopefully they kind of did, right? We want the DC to be a connected bit of cinema.
Yeah, I mean, these are huge shifts. I would love to know what motivated it. Is this box office strategy? Is this problems with production? Is this maybe related to shareholders, right? Are they trying to move it out of different financial quarters to maybe juice numbers? I don't know.
Well, let's take a look here. There was one movie that moved up 6 months. Shazam, Fury of the Gods went from June 2nd of next year to December 16th Aquaman slot of this year. Which is weird because I thought they'd put some faith. That's good they moved it up. It means production's probably going well, right? But correct me if I'm wrong, Avatar 2 is still on track to release this year, right? This Christmas?
I mean, we shall see. I feel like we haven't heard much. We've only gotten a little bit of behind the scenes production, maybe one or two photos. I think of we saw a water tank once.
Yeah.
I don't even. I might be fabricating this in my head, which means it could theoretically be nothing that we've seen.
We've seen several things. You're not wrong on that, but that's really, really Avatar 2. If we said one thing, whether you like it or hate it, you don't mess with James Cameron at the box office, right? Whether you like his movies or not. So. Is Shazam something they can just throw away? Is that the plan here? Because I just looked this up. The other movie coming out, 2 other movies coming out that day, Mike, are in fact the Super Mario Brothers movie, the animated one with Chris Pratt, and Pinocchio. And I believe that's the one with it's got Ewan McGregor in it, not the one we just saw the photo of. It's the Del Toro Pinocchio coming out. Mm-hmm. These could be placeholder dates. They could also shift, but why? I don't know. Again, like you said, we don't know the game plan here. It's been really nebulous. No one's really said anything about this, which is crazy for all these DC dates.
It's like superhero movies are turning into upcoming releases of video games. I'm very used to video games getting delayed, and I think most of the community is, but these dates used to be very concrete. They would only shift very occasionally, and then pandemic came through and said, "Oh yeah, we can just move stuff whenever. It's not out yet. We made the movie. So whatever we want with it."
So The Flash is literally had more directors and almost as many release dates as any other movie threatened to be released. But I will say The Flash, it was delayed to June here of next year, because that is the anniversary of the Keaton Batman movie, I believe. So kind of add that in there. You think that's they're we'll pick a new date, but that's the same date as the other because they're bringing back Michael Keaton? You think is that
who knows? I feel like if anything ever gets released on an anniversary, I feel like it's more luck than anything else, because nerds like us will notice the correlation. We'll be like, oh, that's interesting. I feel like the general audience is going to spend the exact same amount of money at the box office, whether it came out on Batman Day or didn't, so I don't think that's that big of a deal.
Yeah, I think that it's like you said, it's a bit of marketing for them to use, because I think the other thing was Obi Wan Kenobi's coming out on the 45th anniversary of Star Wars, I believe, the A New Hope. So, yeah. Lastly, the other release date DC moved for some reason, whether this affects our show or not, is the Wonka movie, which looks to be a Willy Wonka origin story, possibly like the Joker. Maybe it's dark and gritty. But
as dark and gritty as Timothée Chalamet can be, right?
Exactly. I mean, I've heard some other podcasts also call it Jonka, like Joker and Wonka together. Like this is the Joker, Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie. But it's December 15th, 2023. It's fine. I think it'll be fine to watch. So, DC really, I mean, like you said, they really, if the promo hadn't been out there, wouldn't have been as much of a kick to the face. but like you had a really good weekend with the Batman. You made a movie people are not hating on. It's great, good news all around, and then they come out the next day and like, we're just gonna delay everything.
Get your house in order, Warner Brothers.
Yes, do let us know whenever you figure that out. Some other DC news before we wrap up here is the Gotham Knights video game got a release date of October 25th this year, Mike, and good news for everyone. It comes out on all consoles, whether it is Xbox One, Series, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, or PC. So that's pretty cool. So if you're looking to play this Gotham Knights, which is based on the Court of Owls storyline, which I think everyone it's been a big talking point after the Batman, even though it's unrelated. It's just people want to see that movie made, and this is good news for them there. And in case you forgot, they are working on a Gotham Knights series, which I forget about this every time I turn around because I don't know what it's going to be. But they've cast 2 characters. I don't know the actresses they cast, but the first one is Cruella Dent. If I said Cruella Dent, would you know who this is?
I would guess something related to Harvey Dent.
Yeah, that's what you like to think, isn't it? But apparently, it has to do with like Earth 3. It's like that one Earth where Batman's Bruce Wayne was killed, so his dad became Batman and his mom became the Joker. She's tied into that somehow. She goes by the name of the Joker's daughter, which whether no one really knows her identity in the comic books, she's changed several times. I don't know what's going to happen with this version. It's very confusing. The other one is everyone knows Carrie Kelly, right, from the Dark Knight Returns comic book series. The female Robin has been cast as well. So it looks like they're just pulling literally every young Batman character they can into this, right? Everyone but Batman. So I assume more Robins will be announced soon, or like Aqualads, or that's Aquaman. Like what other, like, is there like a young Harley Quinn somewhere in here, like that they'll pull in? I don't know. This series, I can't remember. Do you remember? Is it CW? Does that ring a bell?
I don't even know. And even if it was technically CW, it's going to air and stream someplace else, so it's not concrete.
It is on the CW. So there you go. Another CW show for you folks to get ready to watch. So yeah, enjoy. Moving on, Obi Wan Kenobi hit us with a poster earlier this week, and we were like, oh, there's got to be I think you said, right, the trailer is going to be right around the corner. Boom, 2 hours later, our first teaser trailer for the Obi Wan Kenobi show dropped, and I didn't say it would break the internet, Mike, but good lord, did it blow up everywhere. Like, this was, for the next 24 hours, this was all I heard was Obi Wan Kenobi and Star Wars teaser trailer. Look here, and I think, to me, you mentioned this very, very well. You put in Duel of the Fates, and that's instant success all around, right?
It's cheat mode. You're turning on big head mode, invincibility, off to the races. That's just such a great song, which it's funny, I don't necessarily associate it really with Obi-Wan so much. It feels like more of a Darth Maul theme to me, but Obi-Wan was there when the song was playing, when they were fighting Darth Maul with Qui-Gon at the end of the first prequel movie, right? Yep. But yeah, it's such a good, and I think it's updated a little bit. I was listening to the trailer again today, like, oh, this is a little bit of a different mix or score or edit, because there's some other elements I feel like that's not quite from the original.
There are 3 soundtracks in this. One is the very iconic Duel of the Fates. Mm-hmm. One is called Anakin's Dark Deeds, I believe, from Episode 3. And then there's the Battle of the Heroes, which is also from the end of Episode 3 as well. Like, all of these have to do with Obi-Wan and and Anakin going, like, turning into Darth Vader in this. Like, very thematic all around. But they do play all 3 of them through this, which was really, really cool. Again, if anything, Star Wars has an amazing soundtrack and sounds throughout everything, and it looks good. So
I mean, you'll be able to speak more to the kind of bigger reveal in the trailer here momentarily, but I was refreshed to see some locales outside of the desert planet, right? Mm-hmm. I'm getting really kind of sick and tired of being on a desert planet. within the Star Wars Disney Plus kind of show era. Like, I can only see a sand dune so many times, or like a dry, dusty outcropping. So I was happy to see some more kind of Metropolis-esque areas throughout the trailer.
Yeah, I think something that's important to add is most of the Disney Plus trailers show scenes from the episode 1, right? Like, or the first episode. So I assume we're gonna see a lot of this in the first episode of the show. You think so? You think we'll get off world that early, that fast?
Yeah, I mean it's highly possible. Yeah.
I think so. But that's why is he getting off world? I think there's a couple things to point out here that we get to see a young Luke Skywalker early on in this, right? Like a 10-year-old Luke Skywalker pretending to fly a pod racer. That's a fun little throwback. But there is an Inquisitor, the lady with the red lightsaber, who happens to be facing down Uncle Owen in the looks like maybe Mos Eisley, one of the Moses, right? Most definitely facing down Uncle Owen pretty early on, and Obi-Wan's there, but he can't come out of hiding because Inquisitors, whether you know this or not, Mike, are Jedi hunters. They were trained and picked by Emperor Palpatine and trained even further by Darth Vader to hunt rogue Jedi across the universe. And if one of them, and I believe it's the third, this is called the Third Sister, they all have numbers. First, Grand Inquisitor, which we see in here as well. We'll talk about that. Second sister, third sister, fourth brother. That's how they name themselves in Rebels. We see the third sister literally hunting down possibly Obi-Wan, but coming face to face with Uncle Owen a couple of times in this. Now,
yeah, I thought the narration was pretty powerful when because I think it's possibly the Grand Inquisitor that's speaking throughout the trailer. But I really like this idea where he's saying like, oh, the Jedi, it's their nature. They can't not resist the urge to kind of help somebody in peril. So we will find them eventually because they can't hide forever type of deal. I was like, oh, I like the theme that this like show is presenting through this narration.
Yeah. The one of the problems, not a problem. One of the things we know, no matter how much trouble Uncle Owen's in, we know he lives. Until he dies.
Until he doesn't.
Yeah, but we know he's going to make it out of this episode or this show, right? And then we know Obi-Wan's going to make it out of the show. But everyone else, there are some that will not. But Star Wars Rebels takes place after this, very close to the start of A New Hope. But I believe there's definitely some interesting parts here. This is also the first time. So we see the Grand Inquisitor, right? He's got a red spinning lightsaber. Mike, you love your lightsabers. We didn't see. I don't think we saw Obi-Wan light his up at all. But we see several red ones, especially a spinning red one, which looks like it, could do some damage if it's spun at you properly. Throughout this, now I will say we do not get any visuals on Darth Vader, even though we do get from, I believe it's Entertainment Weekly, an image to look at here of him in the show. He looks like he's coming out of his little pod where he spends his alone time, but. He wasn't in the trailer. I think they're holding that back for us. Do you think? I think the next one we'll get is probably on May the 4th, like the big, big trailer on May the 4th that highlights the show a little bit more.
That would make the most sense. That's probably when you'll get your shot of Obi-Wan probably popping his lightsaber, right? More classic, iconic Star Wars scores and sounds. Because those are one of the absolute best things about Star Wars is the music. I do have to say, even though this trailer does seem like pretty hype and like pretty exciting, we're kind of running out of material to mine from kind of like the Skywalker story arc, right? Once we kind of put like Obi-Wan to bed, we've seen the whole path of Luke and Han, and I suppose you could continue on and maybe follow Chewie further down the line after some of the later Star Wars films, but it seems like it's time to maybe start putting this era of Star Wars to bed pretty soon.
Yeah, and I think this was out of everything announced, this one, and then there's the Acolyte, which is back in the High Republic era, right? I think this is the last one, and one of the few things, despite whatever, it does say at the end a limited series, which thank God makes me think if it's only one season, right? Like what else? What else do you need out of this? We know how he ends up at the end of where he ends up at the start of A New Hope for Obi-Wan. We don't need to see him going gray and becoming Alec Guinness over time, but like if it's a limited series, I really hope it is a limited series and we just kind of leave it alone and move on.
I'm really curious what the odds are to kind of keep this this era or at least lineage going of like, okay, well, we're gonna see Obi-Wan, just kind of chilling on this planet, killing time. What's the chance that he like falls in love briefly and maybe has an offspring, right? Is there going to be like the child of Obi-Wan TV show in the future? Do we need it? I don't know, but that's kind of that would be my dark horse guess, right? He's impregnating somebody in this limited series just so they can keep that going.
Yeah, I don't know if Dave Filoni has anything to say, they probably won't. Hopefully they're listening to him for a lot of this. He worked on Rebels and the hyper stylized look of it, but I'm excited to. It's not this. I think the Inquisitors are very, very shortly lived. They only lived in between episodes 3 and 4. Did you play Fallen Order? Did you beat it yet?
No.
So you fight 2 Inquisitors in that game as well. The second sister and I believe the 9th sister as well. So I know that this is an opportunity to introduce more dark Jedi or evil lightsaber users along the way. But overall, I mean, like you said, I think this is a lot from the first episode. That's why it's very sandy, but it looks like they get off world pretty quickly because I guess if your goal is to protect Luke Skywalker, you don't want to be near him while you're fighting people, right? So you would probably leave the planet to distract any Jedi hunters from being even near him throughout the whole thing. Anything else to this? I think, again, I'm very, very hype, very, very excited to watch this show and when it drops on May 25th, when it comes out. So.
I will not stand for anything more than I want to say maybe 33% sand, right?
Yeah.
Give me majority plus locales that's off the sand.
I don't think so. My thoughts is there will be a Obi-Wan Vader fight. They will definitely not be on the sand planet. So to get there, they've got to probably use a couple episodes to get them far away from here before they fight. It'd be interesting. I don't think they'd fight on Mustafar again, but I'd definitely be interested to see what they do in more of a crowded area, right? Like in here we see like this. It's not Coruscant, but it looks like it's like a little bit of a seedy underbelly kind of thing. Like, could you imagine like 2 very, very powerful Force users going at it, in like literally like a city locale rather than an isolated, throne room or something where nobody's around? I think that would be interesting to see a lot of. So we'll keep you guys posted. Mike, did you get a chance to watch this Moon Knight preview here that dropped early this week as well?
Yeah, I did see a little bit of it, yeah.
So what I think, to me, there's a couple cool parts. But right out here, it starts with him cloaking up as Moon Knight. Like it shows Oscar Isaac literally in his transformation into the bandage version of Moon Knight. So we get to see that like right out the gate. And if anything you take away from this trailer, it's those first 3 seconds for sure. This little preview. There is I think also we get to see, what was it, the villains. Ethan Hawke seems to have some sort of ability to hover something in his hand, float something, and some Egypt mythology. And the other part I was going to point out to you, Mike, there's like some part where it looks like we have Mark Spector with Khonshu, like, and some like light rings floating around. Did you see that later in the trailer?
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. That was probably my favorite part of the trailer because you get to see kind of the animation and the characteristic of this character that's not human, kind of interacting in the world and not just kind of being like a spooky over the shoulder close up, right?
Yeah.
So I'll be looking forward to more of that.
Yeah. This comes out the end of this month. I think we're less than 2 weeks away from it. I know very little. I'm trying to go in dark, right? Like I want to not, ruin myself by overanalyzing this stuff, but I do enjoy the suits. There was a preview that showed there's the regular human version, the hooded version, and then the Mr. Knight version. So my theory is maybe those are the 3 different personalities of him, right? Like there's the cloaked version, who's one, the business Mr. Knight, who's another, and then the human version. I can't think of his name, but he's got that weird accent. So Moon Knight looks to be pretty cool, Mike. Is this still positive on it? Still feeling good?
I'm still very interested. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah. The main actor's name, Oscar Isaac. Great guy. Thank God he's making up for his turn as Apocalypse in X-Men. Because it's not him, but that movie was awful and his look was just disastrous. So, yeah. And it's funny, though, he is playing another Egyptian. I didn't even really think of that until just now, right? Like Apocalypse was really Egyptian mythology, and now he's doing this Egyptian mythology. So
it's all about the pyramid scheme, huh?
A pyramid scheme, top down. If I tell two friends, Mike, and you tell two friends, and then they'll tell two friends, and then the next thing you know, we all have Disney Plus subscriptions. Miss Marvel, probably one of the bigger question marks, again, for the Disney Plus shows this year. We don't know a lot about it. We've seen a couple of concept arts. There's rumors about her having crystal powers versus growth powers. I don't know what it is, but the theory is it's looking for a June 6th release because there is a red carpet scheduled for June 3rd for this show. So this would be interesting because it would we would actually have overlap between Star Wars and Marvel for a little bit with Obi Wan Kenobi, Miss Marvel. But the other thing with this is it looks like it's a multiple season show, as some of the crew cups, which I thought they would delete this by now. Thank God I saved a backup. Shows Miss Marvel season 1 on the cups, so it looks like they're planning to keep going with Miss Marvel for a couple seasons on Disney Plus.
It is interesting, right? Moon Knight could end up being like this as well, because you're introducing characters brand new with a Disney Plus show. It's not surprising to imagine, multiple seasons, because everything else that we've gotten from Disney Plus and Marvel has been characters that have existed in movies, but then they're getting their own show. So
yeah,
yeah.
I think Loki's the only one confirmed with the season 2 so far. Wanda is going into Doctor Strange. Miss Marvel, before she gets to season 2, will be in The Marvels. I would really love to see where Moon Knight ends up right in there. Is he a Blade? And will he be in Blade? Will he be somewhere else? So
I would say it would be weird for somebody that really likes the first season of Miss Marvel to not watch the subsequent movie that she would be in and then go back to watch season 2, because I would imagine there'd be a big character development and you'd be like, well, what happened to her between season 1 and season 2 here, right?
Yeah.
I would say that doesn't happen often, but I mean, you just said before that the last superhero movie your friend had personally seen was Endgame.
Yeah.
We have had Spider-Man, Batman. There's been other things that have come out that they haven't gone and seen. So people are picky and choosy. They're not completionists necessarily like we are, and maybe the people listening. So I guess that's one of the helpful things, though. If it's all under the Marvel umbrella, at least when you get that previously on Miss Marvel, they can throw in clips from films in there to kind of catch you up.
Exactly. When it's all under one umbrella and you have it in one app, they go like, hey, make sure you watch The Marvels on Disney Plus before you watch Miss Marvel, or like, here's your Miss Marvel watching order kind of thing. It's episodes and then that. So yeah, I think it's fine. I'd be interested to see if this still pops up in June or if it's delayed a little bit to later in the summer to give room for Obi-Wan to shine a little bit on its own. But again, they don't necessarily, Marvel fans are not Star Wars fans, even though there's probably a huge overlap between those. She-Hulk, the merchandise reveals the looks again, Mike. We have the merchandise leaks here. I sent these to you right away because they've got Tatiana Maslany as She-Hulk all over these thermos cups, man. If you like thermos and She-Hulk, by God, Amazon has you covered. What's interesting to me is when I looked at this, I'm like, she's literally wearing the Hulk's outfit, the same color outfit design as in-game's Hulk, right? The Professor Hulk when he's about to do when he's doing the science experiments on the time travel. So it looks like some of that from Mark Ruffalo will be like, hey, you have a Hulk problem. I'm gonna get you a suit that looks like mine that fits that works with your Hulk strength, I guess. I don't know. Maybe we'll get a little more science behind it, but this is just, I mean, it looks fine. She looks like a She-Hulk, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. I mean, there's been a lot of fan art photoshops out there from people just changing Tatiana Maslany's skin color turning it green, and that's kind of basically what we got right here on these thermoses. Yeah, the biggest takeaway, like you said, was maybe more of the costume that she's wearing, and I wouldn't say that's a far off guess that this is given to her maybe from her cousin who has maybe advanced materials that won't bust open when you transform. But yeah, I'm looking forward to see how this is being done on screen, right? Because is this going to be a continuous visual effect that persists every time that this character's on screen? Is she going to stay in this form all the time? Is there going to be a human form? We don't really know 100% just yet.
Yeah, they've really played this one close to their chest. I think the other thing is also like She-Hulk, they give her like some really pitch black like full head of hair, right? That's the one thing with Hulk you never got. He always had like a shorter haircut based on Mark Ruffalo's hair. So it looks like they're giving her like a full head of long black hair for this movie as well. So very interested to see what this will look like at the end of the day. So cross our fingers and that we get a preview sooner than later. So I think it'll be good. I think this will be a good time to see. On a sad note, as of this morning, we have learned that actor William Hurt, who's played General Thunderbolt Ross in all the Marvel movies, including Incredible Hulk, passed away at age 71. So
I didn't know that. Wow,
yeah.
I'm finding out via the show notes right now.
Yeah, so I don't know if he's in this show or not, right? Like, General Ross has been a thorn in the Hulk side since, again, in the comic books and all the movies everywhere. So he was like the one of the characters who's come over from the Incredible Hulk through the rest of the shows, right? He was in the Incredible Hulk. Civil War, I think that was his first return back. He's in Infinity War. He's just recently in Black Widow this year. It's sad to lose. I don't know if he was in this show or not. I know that the Emil Blonsky, I can't think of the actor's name, but he will be carried over. He'll be coming back. So if he's in this show, hopefully, they might have got his scenes done and we get to see him. But I just don't think we'll get to him being the Red Hulk ever, right? Like that was always
that's a shame. I don't think that means the Red Hulk's off the table, but yeah. I'm sure his family does not give a shit about Red Hulk at the given moment. Sad to see him go. He was a great addition. It was great to see. It was one of the first times it really started to feel like Marvel was okay embracing something that maybe was not 100% in the cards, at the very beginning when they were trying to get this franchise and this universe started off. I would say the what do they call them? Monday morning quarterback, right? The Monday morning quarterback nerds back in the day would be like, oh, they should never reference that Hulk movie. It was so bad. And it's like, no, let's bring him in. He's a great actor, great character. That movie did a lot of the legwork already of bringing him in. So yeah, it's sad to see him go.
Yeah. And then I think, correct me if I'm wrong, was it was he related to John Hurt? I can't remember. I thought they might have been related, but I could be completely wrong. I think John Hurt's British and William Hurt was American. He has a huge, long laundry list of films, other than Marvel. So it's sad to see him go. And then, one of the few returning characters to the Marvel universe. So sad about that. Shang Chi, some concept art leaked earlier this week showing the fighting ring scene from that movie, right? Remember when they had the fighting, showing Deadpool versus Proxima Midnight, and you're sitting there, Mike, thinking, "Damn, that'd have been sweet, right? That'd have been a great cameo." Well, number one, Proxima Midnight, I believe, was killed twice in the movies, and Deadpool hasn't made his crossover yet. Well, come to find out, the story behind this is when the concept artists were said, "Hey, pick superheroes fighting," they were given free reign to pick whoever they wanted to fight, rather than anything actually directed from the story.
It's just how concept art works. And also, if you just even look at the kind of stage ring that they're in, this isn't, I mean, the idea is there, but it ends up looking very, very, it's not surrounded by chains, in the film. So you can tell this is very much early in the development cycle.
Yeah. So it's cool to look at. It's cool to, the fantasize. That would have been a fun little sneak peek to include some cameos in Shang-Chi, but it's still it's not the end of the world at the end of the day. So, but that's fine. But I don't think that's the last we'll be seeing of Deadpool, Mike, because as of this weekend, director Sean Levy of the Adam Project has been tapped to direct Deadpool 3, starring Ryan Reynolds. Brought to you by Marvel.
Producer extraordinaire. Because if you look at this man's IMDb page, I will let the listener right now, just in your head, pick a number of how many upcoming projects that you think this man has in development. So just, think of a number in your head, things that you're working on. Are you thinking like 5, 6? Maybe you're being really generous, like, oh, he's probably got like a dozen things in the works. And I would look at you and laugh, because I believe the number is 83 projects in development right now. Now this is probably the case because he is a producer, so he is attached to a lot more things. But I feel like he's going to have to start taking things off of his plate, because once you start to direct something, your life becomes that movie for X amount of time. Like when you're directing Deadpool 3, you can't be weighing in on scripts for these other 83 projects that you're working on, right?
Well, I would say so, but he is a director extraordinaire as well, Mike. He directed the Real Steel movie you just got done watching recently.
Oh, wow.
Night at the Museum, both of them. Date Night, The Internship, all 3 Night at the Museum, sorry. Free Guy was also his movie last year. He goes back to the Pink Panther, Cheaper by the Dozen, Just Married. He is doing everything. What is this guy not doing right now, right? Like I think he's got, like you said, a lot of his tables on producing, but he's also directing that stuff. I think it's funny. I went back and looked at his television stuff. Do you remember the show Animorphs from the late 90s?
Yes.
He directed 5 episodes of Animorphs.
Wow.
So he's a busy man. He's not doing anything huge, but he's doing great work, throughout the whole thing. You were like, I don't think of Sean Levy, but I think some people learned him a little bit more when he did Stranger Things episodes. He directed some of those as well. So
trying to become a household name. Good luck.
If he does Deadpool 3, I think that'll be solid for him. But I mean,
that could do it.
But Deadpool, that's good to know we have a director, on this. I believe they are trying to use the same writers from Deadpool 2. Or no, we talked about it with the Molyneux sisters.
Yeah, right? From Bob's Burgers / The Great North.
To do a draft, and then with Rhett and Warnick taking over the screenplay duties. So that means they're moving along. I think Deadpool's an interesting property. If they put it in the MCU, it doesn't have to be serious. This could just be fun, right? Like they just need to be having fun. And Levy working with Ryan Reynolds on Free Guy and the Adam Project, they've got some good chemistry. I think it'll be a good time after. I think Free Guy reminds me more of Deadpool than the Adam Project. So if they're just having fun and keeping it rated R, will definitely be cool with that. So. And now with Disney Plus's new parental controls and launching this week with the addition of the Defenders series, that'll be great. It can just live on Disney Plus with everybody else in there. Speaking of R-rated projects, Mike, The Boys dropped a very Easter egg laden trailer, as you said, before we recorded. With lots of things that we could probably sit and pick out, but we didn't because it was just such a good time to look at this whole time. So season 3 of The Boys will be dropping on July 3rd, and this is a red band trailer, by the way. There is sex. I don't know if there was language, but there was definitely blood and destruction.
Homelander's milking a cow in a very kind of sensual fashion. Yes, so I suppose you could have to look out for that. Yeah,
don't watch this at work. That's what I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, like Chris was saying, Chris is more familiar with like the kind of comic book origins of some of these storylines. So when I watch the trailer and I'm like, oh, these all seem like winks and nods to things that I do not know. So I did find that pretty funny.
Yeah, I to me it's I think the biggest thing people are going to pull out of this is, why does Billy Butcher have superpowers, right, Mike? Do you know why Billy Butcher has superpowers?
Oh, well, I would assume they get a hold of, whatever that.
It's a Compound V or something like that?
Yeah, Compound V, that's what it is. So I would assume there's an act of desperation or a low part where he needs to resort to it. I would assume that's how it goes.
I would even say maybe not even, like, if you're going to take down, Homelander. I don't know if they'll take him down. I don't think this is the final season, so I don't think this is the last we'll see Homelander. However, if you're going to fight him, you're going to need superpowers. And it looks like he's got super strength and definitely the heat vision that he's got.
I mean, Point Grey, Seth Rogen, and Evan Goldberg, that group that puts this show together, they definitely have creative integrity. So I could imagine them at one point in time deciding, let's end the show. This seems like the most narrative time to end it. But Amazon will want this to go as long as possible. It's one of the most successful things that they have on their streaming service. They have an animated anthology series that came out recently. They have that spinoff series that they're working on. This will be around for a while. Yeah. And I would assume, since not only are we seeing Carl Urban with glowing eyes in the trailer, I saw him with glowing eyes before I watched the trailer on just promotional stills for it, like the thumbnail.
Yeah.
So I would think that the glowing eyes happens within the first drop of episodes, right? Maybe not episode 1, but if they drop maybe 2 episodes on that first week, it'll happen early on in the season. Because why would you spoil the reveal of something that would happen mid or late season?
Yep. The other thing is, we see the advent of the increased scene time of Jensen Ackles, who's dressed up it looks like Captain America, right? Pretty much throughout this, and he plays a character called Soldier Boy, who was a World War II super powered person from Compound V, very similar to the chick from season 2 who was in World War II, right? She was very
but she was a Nazi.
Yeah. So this was the American version of that. So he looks like they're bringing him possibly out of stasis, a la Winter Soldier at the end of the trailer.
That's probably damage control of just oh no, we have to show that this person is good to balance out all the bad that came from the past.
There also seems to be a lot of shots of what's his name? Midnight? Is it Midnight or something black? The black suited guy who's don't talk and they gave him
his name. The Lamplighter? No, that was a different The Void or something I don't remember what it was, but
because there is the he's just literally again just a black noir. There it is. And they almost killed him last season. So he was in a coma. So he doesn't talk, whatever. So I think he will have an increased, presence throughout this season as well, coming out together. But I'm excited. The other thing I think we talked about a little bit while watching this is there a musical number episode this season? It looks like there's a lot of dancing and singing and promos and stuff. Even the heroes, quote unquote heroes and villains, are all singing and dancing quite a bit in this.
Who knows? It could be a whole episode. It could just be somebody gets some hallucinogens, right?
Yeah.
And they start to imagine some things, or maybe it's a scientific experiment. They all get locked up in a lab. I don't know.
It could be. Well, I mean, I think it could be. What if it's some super's power is anytime they're around, everyone has to sing and dance. What if that's some. It feels like a stupid enough power they put in the boys, right?
I just hope it's good. Musical episodes of TV shows, it's a very, very, very wobbly tightrope to walk, because I feel whenever I've seen the behind the scenes of the show creators or the runners, we're finally doing a musical episode, it's gonna be great, everyone's having so much fun. They cut to the actors who are just I've never had to sing and dance before, so this was interesting. So it just always looks like something that the cast and the crew had fun doing, but then it's just I don't want to watch a musical episode. I want you to advance the narrative and show me some fun boys stuff, some explosions and severed heads and stuff, because that's kind of what the show excels in. So I suppose in a musical format that could just be extra funny. But yeah, usually it's because the best thing about musicals, right? It is the music. And that stuff takes time to craft, and then a catchy earworm and everything like that.
Yeah.
So
we'll
see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I could see them again. The Boys is a parody of superheroes, right? Like a darker parody of superheroes. So I could see them literally it's not we're having fun and doing this. This is miserable. We all hate it, and it's hopefully they're trying to figure out how to kill this person. Maybe the only time they ever work together is to kill the hero, making them do the song and dance routine the whole time. I don't know. There's some opportunity here for them to skewer this up in a brutal manner, if you will. So. I'm expecting more. So this is coming out July 3rd, 2022. Now, the other show that always releases in tandem with The Boys is the Umbrella Academy, Mike. And literally this morning, we have our first very brief, very nondescript teaser about the Umbrella Academy Season 3 with the Sparrow Academy, and that launches on July 22nd of 2022 on Netflix. It looks like, again, the Sparrow Academy... If no one remembers Umbrella Academy Season 2, they go back to the current timeline from the past, the 70s, and there's a whole new, quote-unquote, Umbrella Academy with new people, with new abilities, not the same 7 that existed in the previous universe called the Sparrow Academy. They'll probably fight for a minute and then figure out they have to team up to take down whatever is in the way. And
I believe their father... is still alive in kind of like this alternate future that they've created, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting part, because they told him who they were in the past, so when he comes to the future, he doesn't pick the same 7 kids, right? Like, he's like, I'm not going to pick these 7 because obviously they're idiots and went back and messed up the timeline. So I don't know if this actor is supposed to be one of the new cast of kids. It would make sense, but if anybody out there watches Euphoria, one of the characters on that show, Ash, who was a younger character, was recently announced to be in the next season of the Umbrella Academy. So that'll be fun to look out for. Yeah, no, they announced the Sparrows beforehand, so he's not a Sparrow, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he's a young version of a Sparrow. Like, they do, like, hey, here's these kids growing up and what they look like.
Maybe.
Could easily see him doing that. The only one that is the same from the Sparrow is the character Ben, who was a ghost for the first 2 seasons, right? Like, he died and followed Klaus, like, haunted him kind of a little bit. He is alive and part of the Sparrows in this, so the same actor is there. That's the only kind of through line. But I'm excited to watch both of these, Umbrella Academy and The Boys. Like, I think that's a great summer lineup, since we've been without them for 2 years now. I think 2021 was the last time, because they'd filmed them in 2020, so or 2020 was when we last saw them, not 2021. So
yeah, I mean, it's going to be a banner summer for Netflix, because they have the next installment of Stranger Things coming out as well. Like Stranger Things, Umbrella Academy, their 2 biggest shows. It's gonna be a lot of bandwidth coming out of those servers.
Yeah, exactly. And two drops of Stranger Things even as well. Like, you don't just get 1, you get 2 this summer. And whatever else they decide to throw at us, they don't really announce anything out of the blue. They announce anything usually ahead of time. They're like, here you go. Like the Adam Project to me is like the past month, I guess, is where I've heard it the most. I didn't even hear it before then, so be interesting to see that. Anyway, Umbrella Academy, there you go. Season 3, July 22nd, 2022. Mike, that's this week's episode. People want to know what you're doing, what you're up to. Where can they find you at?
Oh, they can find me at Mike Royer Design on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And you can read my webcomics at pickledcomics.com. Chris, people want to catch up with you. Where can they find you?
Find me on Instagram, Valdan87, or Twitter, Valdan, Valdan. People want to know more about the show, what we're doing. Well, since they lost an hour of sleep today, they're going to have to get up even earlier tomorrow to go to work. And they're going to want to listen to us. But where can they find all this good stuff to listen to us at?
Oh, the headquarters of Superhero Slate is at superheroslate.com. That's the best place to get all of our awesome show notes. So if you want to see all the things that we talked about this week on the show, we got all the links in our show notes there. We have a nice upcoming release calendar, so you can keep track of all the craziness and release dates coming up these next couple years.
It's been updated as well, so everyone should be
Chris,
good to go.
He's so diligent, your commander here at Superhero Slate. You can find us at Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you love to listen to find podcasts as well. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and you can get merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. Reach out. You team wheel, you team door. We got to know. Pick a side already. We love our super fans. So if you want to be a super fan of this show, all you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we will be here every week, folks.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.